Entering the Mayo experience.
Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by DraftKings 2023, I guess we're calling it. Sanderson Farms Picks preview. No DraftKings pricing as of yet. I'm changing up what I'm doing for golf season in terms of how to cover the swing in some of these events. Tambo and Kenny have the full DraftKings preview out on Monday nights. I don't want to step on their toes with that by doing the same show. And then obviously Tom and Sky have the European picks that are coming up. The European tournament is way better this week, by the way. It's the Alfred Dunhill Links Championships. You got St. Andrews, a little bit of Carnoustie in the mix. One of the other courses, I already made a bet for that one. You have Thirsty Lawrence, 125 to 1. I grabbed it at 110 to 1 because I wanted 8 places on the each way. And sometimes you got to give up some of your outright odds. But coming off a heater on the weekend with Guido shooting -9 in France, cashing some tickets, 50 to 1. That was great because I was getting shellacked at Le Pont de France with my initial bets. And all of a sudden there's Guido, starts making a charge, hop on the train, and boom. Dagger on the 72nd hole from like 200 away. Incredible stuff from Guido. He could not miss a putt the entire day. But I got Thirsty Lawrence, or Tristan Lawrence, as maybe he's actually called, but I don't care. Thirsty Lawrence just picked up a win on the European Tour, but I highly recommend that you tune in to DP World Tour Picks and Bets with Tom and Sky to figure everything out. So what I'm going to do is make this more like the research show that I would do in the off season on Sundays. We're going to walk through the tournament. The odds have just been released as I basically hit record, and then boom, DK Sportsbook, good on you. You put the odds out for Sanderson Farms. So we're going to try to walk through some bets, see what we can find, and just try to research the course a little bit. It's not going to be a super long show. I want to get people ready for the week. I still want to talk about golf, everything like that. But before, just, a quick on the President's Cup. Kind of enjoyed it. Not going to lie to you. Obviously, my Cam Davis is top everything international. Hit the skids on Sunday, but he played every single match like I thought that he was going to do. And realistically, it came down to a missed putt on 18 on Thursday. He squeaks out that half point. He has the half point lead, and he was beating the crap out of Spieth until the 8th hole on Sunday, and then Spieth went full speed. He couldn't miss. It happens when you have money against Spieth. Spieth went 5-0. It was incredible stuff. Spieth played great the entire week, and he was back to being... It's funny, even when he won at Heritage earlier this year, it was not off the strength of his putter whatsoever. His irons were really good that week, and the ball striking had come back for Spieth, but we saw vintage Magic Bean Spieth all throughout the President's Cup. Every time it's like, oh, we need this 40-footer made. That's Spieth, money, water, middle of the cup. And as soon as he hit it, it's like, oh God, he's staring that down. This is going to happen again. Felt really bad for Pendrith because the first 2 days, Pendrith played better than anyone on the international side and walked away with 0 points. Lost on 18 on Thursday, lost on 18 on Friday. He got paired with that awful Corey Connors was the worst guy out there for the entire tournament on either side. He was an abomination. And then I just stopped watching after the Americans kind of locked it up. Tom Kim was a ton of fun. Siwoo going after Justin Thomas in the opening match. That was great. It rattled Justin Thomas. Love to see it. Although, listen, congrats to Feinberg, who was telling us in the middle of July, hammer the U.S. side before this gets outrageous. Then all the live guys leave, and then it goes off at -750 the entire week after Thursday, after they went 4-1 on the Thursday rounds. I think they were -2,500 at the minimum at any point during the week. It looked like if they had a chance, there was a moment on Sunday where it's well, if all of these matches flip, then the internationals could have a chance to tie for the cup. But that lasted 30 seconds, and then that was all over. It's nice to see Azinger on every putt for the internationals. Well, they make this putt. You swing the momentum. You can swing this entire match. Well, eventually you got to make one of those putts, which they never did the entire week. So when you have a team of guys who can't putt whatsoever, turns out it's a real problem in team match play formats. It was just a lot of curious decisions on both sides. But there's something to, it's never going to have the mystique of the Ryder Cup. No one cares. Just DraftKings didn't fill its main tournament this week because no one cared about the President's Cup. But it was fun to watch. And, it's on earlier in the day, on Thursday and Friday and Saturday, giving me something to do, something to watch. I had no power the entire week, but I was able to, have access to the interwebs, and I was able to stream and just got us through the day with no heat and no power up here. And fortunately, everything is back to normal, except for PME Studios. My studio still has no power, so we're hoping that comes back at some point. If you're missing out on the Listeners League, there's a football one every single week. I don't have the link to it yet, but you can find it in the football shows as of Tuesday. 3,500 spots, 15. It's same as the golf one, no rake, but it's for football. So if you want to get in on that, highly recommend that you do so. But I want to talk some Sanderson Farms and try to see how we can maybe win some money this week. Looking at it right now, fantasynational.com, fantasynational.com/Mayo in order to get your 20% off any membership level at Fantasy National. Once again, Tambo and Kenny will have the DraftKings picks. I'll have my bets in the newsletter on Tuesday evening, and I'll have my article in Golf Digest that comes up. So I want to make this a little bit different. People seem to like the research shows. And listen, your casual golf fan isn't paying attention to any of these shows anyway. It's reflected in the numbers. I know that. So maybe kind of give the hardcores what they want. And this way we can differentiate on Mayo Media a little bit and kind of cover all aspects of what goes on. Just sort by strokes gained total over the past 50. This is not a strong field whatsoever. It's probably best to look at the odds for the week. Let's do that to start. DraftKings Sportsbook, Sammy Burns is the betting favorite. Obviously, he is last year's winner of this event, 11-1. JT Poston is 16. That's telling you how good this field is. JT Poston is 16-1 at DraftKings Sportsbook. Denny wasn't able to hit his irons whatsoever or drive the ball in Napa and did his usual Denny thing to come in 25th of making every putt. He has a good history here, and when we get to the profiles of the winners, it's kind of all over the place. You have Henley, Munoz, Seabez. Keegan is 35-1. Scott Stallings is 30-1 coming off the great end of the year. Taylor Montgomery was 35-1. You have Dietrich, he's at 40. Seamus Power, he's back. CC Jackson's a really weird course. I actually kind of like Davis Riley. I haven't made any bets as of yet for the Sanderson Farms. I mean, it's not so bad in the middle tier. Like Putnam may actually be a look because he can't miss on the greens, or at least he hadn't for the past 3 months. Kind of interesting to see. Woodland's playing in this field. You got Steele playing in the field. Straka, Hadwin, Mullenix, the Burmista Mista lady. He's 65-1. Benny Ann. Basically what you like. Burns won losing strokes putting last year, and that's pretty not indicative of what's going on. We take a look at the tournament history and just try to figure it out. So we'll see last year's leaderboard. Burns, Watney gained 48 strokes putting. That's how he got into the FedEx Cup playoffs. It's by coming second at this event. Andrew Landry, This is just showing the guys that are in the tournament this year, by the way, if you're wondering why certain guys are off the list. So you can kind of attack this any way that you want. I'm surprised to see Cam Champ isn't playing, the 2021 winner. That surprised me a little bit. Munoz won in 2020, 2019. Who the hell won in 2019? Totally forget now. Probably Malnati or something stupid like that. Ryan Armour. So if you see Sam Burns, Cameron Champ, and Ryan Armour all winning the same tournament, then you have Munoz in the mix. It's going to come down to, we'll take a look at how these guys actually accomplished what they did. So take a look at the past 4 years. You'll see that Burns dominated tee to green, lost 2 strokes putting. Didn't matter because he beat everyone by 6 strokes tee to green. That's pretty outrageous, to tell you the truth. That's going to be very hard to replicate in these circumstances. You don't really see that at tournaments all that often. When you gain 14 strokes between driving and approach, you're probably going to win a tournament regardless of how you putt. That is an outlier ball striking performance, though, even from Sam Burns, despite being the best player in this field. There was a very interesting thing after the last President's Cup, mind you, that we had all of the winners to start the new season. It was the Australia in Australia. I think who came out? Whoever won the TOC was at the President's Cup. Cam Smith ended up winning at Sony the next week. Leishman got a win at Torrey Pines. All guys who played in that event came out of the gates really hot. Now that was over the break. That makes sense that maybe they're not, in the best situation where they got real competitive reps. No one else had competitive reps going into the year, but it would be worth probably looking at Munoz, Burns, and Seabez. They're all playing this week in this tournament. Oh yeah, Sergio won. Sergio won last year. That's right. Totally forgot about that. Another great ball striker 2 years ago. 2021. He's not here to play again. Put it that way. But you can see tee to green, 12 strokes. Vijagas, Stewart Sink. Oh, MJ Duffy. MJ Duffy's in the field this week. Gained 7.8 strokes on approach that year, too. And they all bled strokes. Sergio was just above average. Hey, well above what Sergio normally does on the greens, by the way. Almost 3 strokes putting. So that's good news. So ball striking, tee to green, we saw those 2 years. When Munoz won, it was a bit of a different story. I mean, Munoz was fine. He was, 12th in tee to green for the week. He gained 6.2 strokes putting. Fratelli couldn't buy a putt. He came 6th. Tringali couldn't buy a putt. He came 16th. Then you had other guys who were just very balanced throughout the course of the week, ended up coming there. Sung Jae came in 2nd. Benny Ann came in 3rd. Might be time to press the old Benny Ann. Maybe I don't want to say he's figured out the putter, but he no longer seems like he's the worst putter on the PGA Tour now that he's back. We see him at the Fortinet, and it's hard to string together too many good performances in a row. We saw when he won on Corn Ferry earlier this year, T21 at Louisiana the next week. Then it took him a while to get it back. Then he came in 2nd. Then he went through a really bad stretch. All of a sudden, he's back with a top 5 finish despite losing strokes on approach. His around the green game was solid, but that's been pretty standard for him over the course of his career. Not lately on the PGA Tour, but that's the reason that he lost his tour card to begin with. Historically, he's been excellent around the greens. It's a lot like Luke List in a way, if he can get his approaches back to where they need to be. You can see like his overall tee to green has been tremendous throughout the course of his career, except he loses 2 strokes per tournament on the greens. So you can figure that out a little bit. You can get some leeway. I don't know if his tee to green game is so good that it can overcome the bad putting this week, but it's interesting to look at in that circumstance. Cameron Champ won in 2019, by the way. 9.1 strokes putting for him that week. And that tops, Anders Albertson, who is back in this tournament. I remember Fantasy National kept spitting out anyone who ran stats, really, just Albertson for like the next 6 months because he was so good at this one tournament in such a small sample that it worked out a little bit for him. So you can see, Burns and Connors. Oh, wow, Connors actually gained strokes putting. Shocker. Scheffler played that year. So let's go back to, the tournament history here and just take a look at who's been the best at this tournament. Denny has had the most success, but if he's not hitting his irons well, it's going to be tough to win. There's only so many strokes you can gain on the field putting, and he normally does that week after week, and we're not seeing these high-end finishes. He had his great run. It reminds me a lot of Hank Lebioda from 2 years ago, where he went on this insane run. Kadira did it as well, I think, last year, where the tee to green was capable, it was good, and then the putting came along with it, and that was great. But as you can see, he's now dropped in 5 consecutive tournaments off the tee. Not as bad at the Fortinet, but he also wasn't playing against the best of the best like he did at BMW. And then you see strokes gained approach has just been basically non-existent. He hasn't gained more than 0.3 strokes gained on approach in any of his past 5 tournaments. He chips, he putts. We know he does that. Can he round out the rest of his game to do anything? That's not usually a shot that I want to take when, what is he this week? 18-1? Listen, I'd be really happy if Denny McCarthy could win a tournament. I like Denny, but there's a reason that I never bet on him. I feel like he's overvalued just based on putting, and that's a tough scene when it comes down to it. Let's take a look at how Dietrich did. Probably going to end up going, if Munoz is going to be 20-1, that's going to be tough to overlook here. Dietrich, a lot of driving, a lot of chipping. That was it for him. Had the bad Sunday at the Fortinet, but he's been kind of plodding around. Obviously more of a European player, but he's going to be playing full time on the PGA Tour this year. We haven't seen Keegan in ages, but Keegan's the type of player, could he putt? We've seen him putt once at this tournament, turned out really well. I mean, Sergio's won at this tournament in the past too, so you don't need to be the world's greatest putter in order to really win this tournament as long as your tee to green comes around. And we saw it happen one year, then we didn't see it the next year. Overall, he's been kind of lackluster since the U.S. Open when he made the run. We had money on him. That was going to be really nice, but did not turn out that way. Take a look at the course in the past course conditions, and we'll take a look at the course breakdown. So the past course conditions, you see Bermuda greens, soft. It's easy to hit the fairway. Sometimes it's difficult, kind of crazy. Really fast greens at this course, if that's how you really want to separate everything. And the scoring is relatively easy all of the time. It's not super long, and you get the full complement of holes to really go crazy with. We sort by par. You see you have 1, 2, 3, 4? 4 par 5s. They all play to, I guess number 5 is a bit more difficult. It's a 3-shot hole. Only a 25% birdie rate on that. Everything else is over 34%. Eagle rate at number 11, over 2%. So the long hitters can do it. You also have the really short number 15. You can drive it You can also get yourself, if you miss left, into a lot of problems, as I've seen with my guys over the year. Like the birdie rate isn't substantially high. Like it is, it's 35%. It's the easiest par 4 by far on the course, but you do see like a 9% bogey rate, doubles or worse. Like you can get it going bad if you miss horribly off the tee. I think that's the reason that you see some of the bombers do really well at this course, and some of like the pure accuracy players. So strokes gained off the tee is really where I do want to be looking. You can see with the top 10 finishers, it's actually more than half of approach, which is not what you normally see at courses like this. And even when you go to the top 5, it actually becomes a bit more pronounced, like over a half stroke per round off the tee amongst the top 5 finishers, almost a stroke on approach, but then it becomes a putting fest. So you don't want guys who are an abject failure on the greens unless they have that Sam Burns outlier in terms of what they're going to do with their tee to green. Like that's betting on any sort of outlier is really tough. Like you want to put the people in the right positions that they could do that. But at the same time, it's going to be a little bit tougher. Let's see how T. Gala did. Like, he seems like someone who's on the precipice of a win. Obviously, putts much better on POA. Bermuda is his worst surface. Putted well last week at the Fortinet. Played really well all around. Didn't have his best stuff, but got bailed out by having a really hot putter. He's had a really hot putter 2 of the past 3 turns, too. Didn't play well at the Tour Championship. First time in the Tour Championship. He was probably the worst guy who made it through. Actually, a Hoagie made it through, so it was nice to see him get there. It means he gets into the Masters next year. So I'm happy with the progress that he's making. We've seen a lot of spike finishes from him. So if he can bring the putter with him on these Bermuda greens, then maybe it's going to be fine. And it's not like, we're middle of the season Bermuda. I don't exactly know how it plays down in Jackson, Mississippi, but I'm guessing they're super fast. Maybe that plays to his benefit. I don't know. I wonder what his splits are between Lightning, and let's see how he does in terms of like overall. He is in strokes gained putting 34th over the past 50 rounds. Let's shrink that size down to 24 and see what it looks like for a moment. See if anyone pops up. We'll run the model here in a second to see if there's any back end names. And this is the time of year to kind of take your lumps with the bottom end guys. It worked out with Benny Ann. Coming off, Taylor Montgomery was another one. Just he wasn't priced up high enough for the success that he had on the Corn Ferry Tour, being essentially the best player down there. What's going on? Oh, they're probably updating the system as we're going through. Of course they are. So past 24 rounds in general, you got Sahith. Sahith is 28th in putting over the past 24, but if we shrink that down to past 24 rounds on lightning fast greens, we'll go fast and lightning because you never know exactly how the speed is going to play on some of these things. And we'll take another look at Sahith. Sahith ends up becoming, okay, so he puts better on these surfaces than he does on slower surfaces. So that's really good to know. You can see Sam Burns is also very much up there in putting, although that did not translate a year ago, but tends to putt better on the faster surfaces. So that's good information to have. Who is the best overall at some of these things? Oh, Bez. Like, this could really be a good Bez course. I worry about the amount of strokes that he loses off the tee. But good experience at the President's Cup, albeit he didn't play a ton. You see Poston's up there in putting, McCarthy, Todd Father, Harris English. What's Harris English been up to? Justin Lower, who had the nice run. I mean, he could have won in Napa. Didn't end up winning in Napa. Ended up coming in 4th, but had a very good week all around. Tends to be a very good putter by and large anyway. Maybe he is worth going back to this week as a look, depending on what his DraftKings price is going to be. You see Harris English at the Fortinet. Can't hit an approach to say, I don't know what happened to Harris English. He's basically Denny McCarthy with slightly better driving. But when you take a look at the odds and you see Denny is at the top of the list at 18 and Harris English is, where are you at, Harris English? Harris English is at 50-1. Like, that just seems like a no-brainer. If you wanted to bet McCarthy, seeing the way that Harris English is currently playing, it's basically Denny McCarthy's game, and you're getting 2.5 times more the odds on Harris English, who's a proven PGA Tour winner, although he is still battling back from injury. Then we saw he did just come top 10 at a tournament, so not bad. It's good to see that Taylor Montgomery putts well on these fast surfaces. Only in 7 rounds. Keegan Bradley, another one who putts better on faster surfaces too. So some interesting names to look at if you want to jump back on Team No Putt. We'll see what I have for the custom stat model for the Sanderson Farms, the Big Cock Trophy. Always a fun one to go through and see. Do I have a Sanderson Farms model? I do have a Sanderson Farms model. What does it look like? Par 4s, 400 to 450 yards at 10%, approach 25, putting 10%, you got to weight it here. It means a lot. Not necessarily it's the most predictive thing, but it is good to see. I'm actually going to take that out and replace it here in a second. Strokes gained off the tee, 20%. Par 5s, 10%. Proximity, I'm going to lose these proximity ranges. I've overweighted because I have opportunities gained. I think that's going to be good enough along with the par 4 range and approach. What I want to put back in, so I have 10. I need more than this here. Let's see here. So par 5s, 10%, par 4s overall, along with the key par 4 area at 5%. Opportunities gained, another approach stat, a scoring stat at 10%. So what I'm going to do with putting is what we learned throughout the course of the year to try to continue to apply this. We're going to go putting 5 to 10 feet and then putting 10 to 15 feet, where you're going to make the majority of your birdies. We'll weight them both at 10%. Actually, you know what? We'll go 7%. 7% to a combined 14. That gives us an extra 6% to play around with. We'll check that on to par 4s overall, make that 11%, and run the model and see what happens. Back in the day before, it's funny, the last few years, coming out of COVID, the swing season ended up getting better fields and better players at them. But the years previous to that, the Fantasy National Simulator was hot fire when it came to trying to pick winners in these sort of scrubby events. I always think that it's better in the scrub events. Wasn't great on Max Homa. That's not good. But in years past, like where do we have that great run through the swing season? I think it was like Munoz. Where are we at? 2021. Jesus. We might even go back that far. Rocket Mortgage. Was it 2020? No, that was the COVID year. So before that, it ended up nailing Austin Cook, Sebastian Munoz. It was like, I think it hit like 4 winners in 7 events, and it was all in these absolute just jabroni fields to look at. So that is worth noting going forward, that simulation usually comes out on Tuesday evenings, that if you want to check back, I mean, it's not a fail-safe by any means, but it might give you some good value on some of the players that maybe you're thinking about down the list. I'm going to use it as a part of my process as it turns into making my final bets for the week. So past 24 rounds, the numbers like Griot, Johnny, ooh, I like that. Trey Mullenix, Brendan Steele, Taylor Moore, Lee Hodges, Hayden Buckley, Kevin Streelman, Mark Hubba Hubbard, Scott Stallings, Russell Henley, Martin Laird, Svensson, Glick, Tyler Duncan. Now, what you're going to see is some of these numbers go back like halfway through the summer. It's a very difficult time of year in order to try to parse what these numbers mean. So it might be worth it to go take a look at what happened in Napa and try to project something off of that. I know it happened 2 weeks ago, but it is the only thing that we have. You can go back and look at Korn Ferry stats too, if you really want to. Those are all loaded into Fantasy National at the moment. So you see Brendan Steele, not big shocker, couldn't chip, couldn't putt, ball striking was fine for Brendan Steele, who ended up missing the cut. So we'll take a look at strokes gained, and just maybe there's some sort of outliers here that we missed on the way through. Like, Jesus, Jimmy Walker led the field in approach and came 25th. Okay. Didn't expect to see that. James Hahn was up there. My voice is not ready for the Hahn this early in the morning. Bo Hostler actually hit his approaches quite well. We know he can putt. Can't drive for crap, but here we are. Harrison Endicott. Todd Father. Okay. We might be talking about something right now. How has Todd Father been? Minus 6.8 at FedEx St. Jude. That's strange for him. For a guy who's supposed to hit all of the fairways. The putting has been excellent. How has he done at Sanderson Farms in his career? Not good. Not great, Bob. Been bad at the Sanderson Farms. I don't know if that's something that we should put a lot of stock into, but this does seem like a course that would be a little bit better for him. I'd want him gaining more strokes off the tee, though. Woodland's a really interesting case. I don't remember, though. When was the last time he lost 3 strokes off the tee? He just seems to be at a different point of his career now. But yeah, that's a really outlier performance from him off the tee, even through his struggles. The approach numbers are really good. The chipping and putting was bad. I don't know if he's ever played Sanderson Farms. He did once last year, missed the cut, but gained in ball striking, so that's always positive news to see. Okay, who else? Chris Stroud, probably take a pass on that. Hostler, Merritt. I don't know if Merritt's in the field. Is Merritt in the field? Merritt? No Troy Merritt this week to throw us off course. If we just do, we could just sort by past 4 rounds too and see what that ends up coming out to in terms of the model. Just take the last tournament and throw caution to the wind and just try to see, based on the metrics that we have, who may have been an outlier performance from what we saw. Now, it's not going to be the last 4 rounds for everyone from last tournament. Some guys didn't play in that tournament, so obviously that might not be the best. So we'll see here. Strokes gained approach. Ben Griffin was up there. I feel like that's from the Wyndham. Think that's from the Wyndham Championship. No, he missed the cut at the Fortinet, so it's 2 rounds at the Wyndham when he came fourth. So be careful when you're like parsing through these stats. So small of a sample this early in the year, but I do like to look at this stuff to see if we can try and catch someone on a heater who was great from this key par 4 range. Ben Griffin's been good from that range. Taylor Montgomery, probably going to end up betting Montgomery again because he might be the best guy that's come from the Korn Ferry Tour. 35-1, like Bez, Montgomery is where I'm leaning, I think. Bez is difficult. I think he's a superior player, and he needs to hit fairways. That ends up becoming the problem with him. I had my big man Vince do. Feel like his approach is good over the past 4 rounds, but he had a real struggle bus on approach for some of the Fortinet, but his driving is so good. And if he can find the putter, I don't know how well he putts because I don't have a lot of data on him. Sky would be a good guy to ask about this. But if he actually is someone who can putt reasonably well, like he kind of fits that Cam Champ mold that if he runs a hot putter, he's going to gain so many strokes off the tee that you're looking all right here. So, I mean, he is the last guy to have a par 4 or a par 4 hole-in-one between the DP World Tour and on the PGA Tour. So that's always nice to see. Where's big Vince Norman, the big Swede? He's 200-1. All right, so Vince Norman, he's getting my money at 200-1 this week. Take a look at him. Ended up playing pretty well. Michael Kim, number 1 in all of this stuff, which is kind of hilarious to see. If I type in, actually, no, I don't want to look at the Korn Ferry stuff as of yet. You guys can go to fantasynational.com/Mayo and screw around with that yourself. So over the past 4 rounds, like it shouldn't be that big of a difference. Did Johnny Hunt play in the Fortinet, or is that just from Wyndham? He missed the cut at the Fortinet, and it's 2 rounds from the Wyndham when he was great. I don't know if he can make enough putts. He's been bad with the putter as of lately. Try to find these middle guys. Yeah, man, Montgomery. Do we go back to Mullinex? I know he missed the cut. I bet him at the Fortinet, and he did not have a good week. The approach was really good, though. It's funny to see him not drive the ball really well, but I can probably get back on Mullinex. What did it say his Mullinex's odds were? Was he near the top of the board? He may have been. I don't think I want to go on to like a super chalky. 50-1's not bad, actually. And maybe we can find a better number out there somewhere. So we got Bez, 28, Montgomery, 35. I'm going to search around for better numbers on all this stuff, obviously. Mullinex at 50. Norman at 200-1. Davis Riley just intrigues me to no end because, I mean, Sam Burns has won here. Maybe he can find something. I mean, he got into that duel with Sam Burns at the Valspar earlier this season. I mean, the putter is so weird with him. Like, he'll gain 9.4 and lose 8. At least he's someone who can have spike putting performances. I generally like him at like shorter, more, I don't know. I mean, the driving had been great until the last 2 times out. Maybe he just takes a, Davis Riley, huh? Opportunities gained, he's 4th. So it's nice to see that he's still actually hitting his approaches pretty well. All right, he's going on the short list. Again, I'm going to have all of this in the newsletter. You can subscribe to that down in the description of the podcast and show, but just interesting to see what all of this stuff is going to really filter out. I'm going to get some Euro plays on the go, too, I'm pretty sure. Let's just see. Opportunities gained over the past 4. Mullinex, Hadwin. When was the last time Hadwin played? Hadwin last played at the BMW. Okay. BMW and FedEx St. Jude. He hasn't been good since the U.S. Open, but an interesting look here. Probably won't get to him. The Smother Man, feel like he made the cut. That I know because I played him at the Fortinet. I don't know how much he ended up doing. All right, bad chipping, good putting. First time he putted well in ages. As he played at Sanderson, at the San Antonio Championship, he played well. Don't really care about that. So he's a first timer at the course this season. Not too concerned about anything like that. What about the glove? The glove comes in 96th in the rankings, but par 4s and opportunities gained. He's super high on this list. It's because he lost 5.3 strokes around the green at the Fortinet, but gained everywhere else. 3rd at St. Jude, so maybe he's trying to find something a little bit. We know the approaches can be really good. The ball striking can be good. He can flip the putter from time to time. We've seen him win. We saw him win a U.S. Open, albeit it was like 14 years ago at this point. But hopefully the putting hasn't left him completely dry yet. Who putted well from 10 to 15 feet? That last tournament, Hughes, Lower, Griot actually. Griot actually kind of rates out really well for historically what you think of him at this course. I mean, the approaches have been bad the past 3 times out, but the putter is like, I don't want to say he's solved his putter by any stretch of the imagination, but he's gaining. Still hitting all the fairways, not a long hitter, makes the cut here every year. The approach has been really great here. The putter has been lacking. So Griot's going to go short list. For me, this seems like a type of tournament he could win. based on its setup. But I do want to search off the tee. How in God's name did Michael Kim? Good Lord, Michael Kim. Kramer Hickok, Montgomery's definitely going to be up there. Rogers, Will Gordon. How did Will Gordon do in the first tournament of the year? He won one of the Corn Ferry events. So that ended up going pretty well for him, I'd say, to get him back in. Actually, the ball striking was great. Okay. Historically, how is he as a putter? Bad. But maybe we can catch him doing something well here. He's played this twice, made the cut once, 2020 gain strokes putting. So Will Gordon, no idea how the market is valuing Will Gordon right now. Will Gordon 130 to 1. Probably a better back-end DraftKings player, a top 20, something like that. But I don't hate that. Carl Juan being at 130 to 1 seems kind of crazy, doesn't it? For a guy who was like the man. At least I think he was. I think he was the man. Oh, we're not getting any Carl Juan stats in here. All right, that's why he's not popping out. I have to get Moose on that one, try to figure out what's up. But that's an interesting look, I think. Zediang Du. How's he doing here? I mean, he had a really good year on the Corn Ferry Tour. Gained a bunch off the tee. I don't know. The thing is, I don't know enough about these guys to know if that's like indicative of something that he can continue to do. Although he's gained when he's played on the PGA Tour. I mean, he had a bad stretch here, 2018 when he played. But St. Jude he gained, Valero he gained, Wyndham he gained. Doesn't seem like dude can putt or hit approaches whatsoever, but maybe that's the old him. Now he can chip. Maybe he can hit approaches now too, after the success that he had on the Corn Ferry Tour. Knowles, Wu, Brandon Wu, Keegan, Nick Taylor, Luke List. Poor Luke List. I really needed him to come through for me to make the cut at the Fortinet, and he left a chip up and down in front of him. This is always a bad sign for Luke List. Yes, the putter is always going to be horrendous. We know that. But once he starts losing strokes around the green, when he hit his good stretch, how did we know it was coming? Because he started gaining strokes around the green every single tournament. It's almost like what Ben An is currently doing and what Ben An used to be. You live with the terrible putting, mainly because you know that if the chipping is going to be there, then you're not going to 3-putt from 25 feet. You're just going to have a bunch of 3-foot par putts, and maybe you can get by a week during that. Nice to see the approach was still good. Obviously, the driving is almost always going to be good. He'll have his outlier bad performances here or there. What is Luke List's odds? He was beyond, he's 130 to 1. So is MJ Duffy. I like MJ Duffy too. So maybe we can go down there on him. Where is our guy? Byung Han An. 80 to 1? Don't hate it. Don't hate it at all. I have to get back on the old Benny Boy train. Now that I've lost some of my favorites to the Live Tour that I bet absolutely every single week, maybe Ben An is the one that I need to start looking at when it comes down to the picks. What I want to know is from you guys, what you want to see out of me covering golf during the swing season. Obviously, you know I don't have a ton of time to dedicate to full-time golf like I do during non-football season. Football during football season is going to be king. Golf during golf season is going to be king. So if you have ideas for the show of what you would potentially want to see, I want to record it on Monday before I get too busy on Tuesday, and I would really like to continue to do that. But I like the research aspect of this. I hope you found this helpful. I'm trying to talk through my plays, set my base for research. It's really helping me out, too, because I hadn't looked at this until we come on. That's a part of the show. You get to learn along with Pat, learn about the tournament, learn what the odds are, and then maybe utilize some of that information that when you listen to Fantasy Golf Degenerates later on Monday night or Tuesday morning, you listen to the DP World Tour Picks and Bet Show with Tom and Kim. Thirsty Lawrence, that's the bet. As of right now, Hatton wins this like every year. So you should probably look at that too. That you can utilize some of this information and apply it to them and come to the conclusion with your own picks. And then you just have to sub to fantasynational.com/Mayo and you're good to go. Anyway, that will do it for me. Smash the like on the way out, sub to the channel, listen to all the football shows. They've been a lot of fun so far this year, all right? I'm Pat Mayo. I'll see you next time.
Mayo experience! Experience!